1, 2, 3, 4.
And welcome back to another episode of Breakfast with Brothers.
And if you didn't already know, we're the brothers. That's right. You're having breakfast with us. Thanks for coming, even though we're not actually eating breakfast and we can't see any of you. But here we are, back again. What episode are we at these days, Ian? Do you remember?
Back and better than ever. But I think it's episode... I think we're at 52 right now.
Ooh-wee mama. Putting the people on. Stay tuned because 100's coming very fast. It's going to be here just like that.
It's going to be here tomorrow. We're gonna label it episode 100.
We're actually going to skip a couple numbers. We just love you guys so much we want to do another giveaway. Speaking of, you guys got to get on the ball and figure this out. Send a comment, do anything, because I want to give away this money. As much as I hate spending money, I want to spend it so bad. So please, comment, do anything to help us out. Please. We're helping
truthfully,
you, helping us, helping you, helping us.
I gotta check that actually. It's been I've been on a trip, so I haven't really gotten the chance to check it. So I'll have to check that tonight and see what's going on. See if anyone commented, because if someone did,
are you on
great.
Wi-Fi on your phone right now? Why don't we take a quick podcast update look, and then maybe we can tell someone that they're blessed up in episode 52 right now.
Well, I have it on my laptop, and so we'll see if it actually loads.
That would be quite
Let's
nice.
see.
Of course, we hope that someone commented. I could have just been saying everything I just said for nothing. So
let's see. Wah, 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 wah.
Are the people aware enough? Have they listened?
I don't know. We'll find out. I'm looking right now. Probably look like a little crazy right now. The bright ass screen.
The lights are putting your face in super perspective. Yeah, look at that forehead.
So bright.
My eyes. Oh, well, Ian goes blind. Let me sing you all a nice little song.
All right, you can stop because there's no comment.
Okay,
you guys are lacking.
But not good. I said good in a very condescending tone.
I'm very upset with all of you.
What are you people thinking?
I'm very upset.
But before we lose our huge fan base and continue to roast all of our listeners, thank you guys who are listening, even though you didn't listen to episode 50. That's okay. We'll forgive you. But here we are again, back at it again with our new adventure of topics and paths and things like that. What are we putting the people on to today, buddy?
Well, today we are talking about anxiety.
So as we gasp our way into this topic, I think we can open up by what anxiety means to us, just like we have with the other episodes and stuff like that. And for me, it is a feeling of uncertainty. And I think maybe a lot of people feel like that, or close. But for me, it's uncertainty because of you're not sure if you can get through that feeling. Like for me, when I was going through some times of anxiety or approaching a situation where I didn't feel comfortable, you kind of get this whole body feeling that just rushes through everything and nothing is certain. And it almost feels like you're out of control of that situation and you're unsure if things can be good. You know, I don't want to say in the future, but in the future of that moment, you know, a couple minutes, a couple hours, maybe even a day or two. And it's just those things that hit you and you're so unsure. And for me, those moments, it didn't make me feel like I wanted to like die or anything drastic like that, but it just made me feel not so safe. Like I was just like, oh my gosh, like, you know, this is a place where I would normally feel safe and everything's fine, but for some reason right now everything's ass backwards. And for me it was scary, and it doesn't happen to me all that much anymore, but when it did, and it happened often, it was one of those things where when it did occur in that moment, you wasn't sure if it could turn off. And I think that was the hardest thing for me, was being able to know that the other side is somewhere, whether or not, like I said, that's minutes, days, months, whatever. But in that moment, it's just you want it to stop. Like, you don't want to be anxious, and you're just so, like I said, scared. And it's one of those things where getting through it was absolutely the toughest part. So for me, it's uncertainty. So I don't know what that looks like for you, but let them have it.
Anxiety to me, let me make a remark before I get into that on yours, because I think it's interesting how you kind of described it.
Yeah.
I deal with anxiety in a much different way than how you kind of view it, with the essence of, like, I don't know, it just seems like, you know what, let me just continue with my, because I think you'll kind of understand
how it differs and what that means. Absolutely.
Yeah. So anxiety for me is similar in uncertainty, but I think it's more across the point of the thought of someone judging, someone watching me intently, and while I do things of such, and essentially where it turns into for me, it's like where like they might make fun of me because of what I do, or how I go about something, or how I look, or how things, make me feel, I guess, in a sense. And I guess the best way to describe it is with an example. Like I tend to deal with anxiety on a daily basis, and I'm not really sure why, because I find myself to be a relatively confident man, but truly what brings me, down to relatively is my anxiety with a lot of things. And I think it's more so just like fear of failure, more than anything. I think I've gotten past a little bit of the judgment that I think people are, like judging me because I do things a certain way, or because, I do this or I do that type thing. And I guess, fear of failure, it goes with, pretty much everything I do. It's always like, the example I'll give is with my music. I might not have like the best of skill in some stances, and other people might think I'm, phenomenal at music. But, the point is that there's always this thought in my mind that I'm not going to sound good. So it's kind of just like the anxiety pushes in and essentially says, well, just, do it another day. Don't worry about it today, sort of thing. And that continues.
Over, right. And it takes over.
Yeah, it persists. So that's kind of what I deal with in that instance, and how I view anxiety is more so like fear of failure, because of like anxious tendencies. It kind of like pushes that feeling. So, and I think uncertainty is definitely within it, and I think that is pretty much hand in hand with fear of failure, because you're uncertain of the outcome of everything going on. So that's why I said it's different, but I think mine is more specific to that point. So it's, I don't know. What do you think?
Sounds like at least yours was, you knew what made you anxious. Like going into a situation, you knew what was going to trigger you in some type of way. And whether that was situational based, it sounds like it was situational, dependent on the action you were taking. And also it sounded like it could be dependent on outside factors, which in this case being people. In that first instance you said about, judgment and stuff like that. But it sounds like you've gone further, to get by that, where I assume that the way you helped yourself, or are trying to help yourself, is that you're relying less and less on people's opinions and what they think of you. Now, and maybe that's just an assumption. I don't know if you've gotten to that point, but I'd like to think that's how you're battling it. So I don't know if I'm wrong, tell me. But I think in your case, with uncertainty existing, mine, instead of being with situational dependencies, it would wash over me randomly, which was why it was scary. And what I was saying earlier, it hasn't happened in a while. My initial trigger for when I was getting onsetting anxiety, it was when I was drinking a lot of caffeine, and it wasn't coffee. It was like energy drinks or eating things with caffeine in it, some soda, and I had found out that it was a trigger for me at the time, because when I wasn't doing anything with caffeine, eating it, ingesting it, I didn't have any issues. Like it never popped up. But in these cases, it was even like, for example, if I had an energy drink yesterday, I could have like a random flare up today, which was what concerned me, and it was hard to pinpoint. But back to what I was saying, the uncertainty was awful because these waves would hit, and I could be, for example, like I was playing, if I was playing a board game, like with Meg and somebody else, and then just boom, wave hits me. All of a sudden, I'm completely comfortable, I'm completely safe. There's nothing going on, literally not a thing. Wasn't even raining outside, one of those situations. Perfect day otherwise. All of a sudden,
Yeah.
wave washes over, and it takes over my whole body, my whole, thought process, and it's just like, whoa, hey, you're effed, man. Like, whatever you're doing right now, don't. You need to be doing anything else. It would just send me into almost like a shock where it didn't matter what I thought, what I did. My mind was just, hey, dude, like, you're anxious. I'm going to make sure you know it, and we're going to scare the shit out of you. And it would just make me think about, like, random thoughts, like, oh, my gosh, like, I might have to go to the hospital. Or, like, oh, my gosh, what if, someone in my family is hurt somewhere and I don't know about it? Or, like, oh, my gosh, like, I don't even know, like, I'm going to get into a car accident if I hop in the car and drive somewhere. Like, just random things that put my mind in a negative mind state that just made me feel some type of way that I guess led into my uncertainty. And it was scary, because I could never tell when those waves were going to hit. And when they did, it was just those moments of anxiousness that, would last. Sometimes it was 5 minutes, sometimes it was an hour. And, in that circumstance, it was tough, just being able to battle through it, but not know, like, when you would get out the other side. It was kind of felt like a bad trip. Like if for example, I went and ripped MDMA or shrooms or something, and it was just a bad time. Like that's kind of what it came across as. Like I was just having an awful reaction to nothing. Just like thinking bad thoughts. My body felt uncomfortable, like I was about to break out in hives or something. And I guess that's the best way I can describe it. It was weird. So
let me ask you, because I'm someone who definitely deals with anxiety on a daily basis.
yeah.
Would you say you have your anxiety somewhat, I shouldn't say somewhat under control, but do you deal with anxiety daily, or is it something that kind of just, envelops you in certain moments? Like how does it affect you?
Well,
When does it affect?
Right. This year, I haven't had any flare-ups. Nothing crazy has happened, and that is probably more me cutting the caffeine out of my diet because I thought that's what was doing it.
Mhm.
But now I've since gotten back on caffeine, and or at least I should say in moderation, and it hasn't given me any flare-ups. So it may have just been a whole mindset thing last summer. But to
Okay.
moreover answer your question, it wasn't a day-to-day thing, and it was more random. But when it was random and it popped up, I'd say it would happen once a week, maybe sometimes twice. And the worst part about it being random. But when it did happen, most of the time, it was like when I got like when I showed up to work in the morning, like the first couple hours of the day, or it would be like later in the night, like after I had just gotten done doing some stuff with Amazon, or I had just finished eating dinner or something like that. And it was, like I said, it was never like situational. Like I didn't find myself in an uncomfortable spot and then it hit. It would just be me doing a normal thing, like maybe even a routine thing for me. And then it would just come over as a wave, and it would just take over my thoughts. It would take over like my physical feelings. And I think that was the worst part about it, is because I could never time it. I could never like mentally prepare myself to be like, okay, like I'm in a good headspace. I got nothing to worry about. Like I could never even convince myself that I was fine. It would just hit. And then I would be trapped almost. And then I would have to wait for it to pass. I would have to, like while I was running that, moment of anxiety, I would have to try and like sneak some positive thoughts into my head to like try to push myself out of it. And it wasn't even a battle. Like I just kind of had to let it flow like a virus. Like it hit me, and then okay, got to let it run its course, like that type of thing. It was almost like I was helpless, up until it passed on its own.
That's interesting. I haven't really viewed it like that because of how my anxiety hits. I think it's interesting to hear someone else's perspective who might not deal with it as frequently, and how it kind of affects them, and when and where it hits, things that you do to kind of combat it. It's interesting to hear. It's kind of also like that seems in some ways even more crippling than, me dealing with the anxiety that I do every day, where it's just like you can't like just get rid of the thoughts, where it's like with me, I would say I have anxious moments pretty much every day, where it's like even something that I'm comfortable doing, where it could be just like, going out to work, or like a certain day of work. So like, say for instance, I don't know how to use a certain type of machinery yet, or I'm like unsure of how to go about like doing things, so on and so forth. Sorry about that. Got a little cut out, but let me continue my thought. That example I was giving with work, we're going to push that to the side because that's more of like a nervousness thing, I would say. So that's not really a great example, but let's go with, in the sense of just doing something, even something that I enjoy, that, could be like going out with friends, or, going grocery shopping, or doing, little errands here or there, or something like that, or bringing my car to the garage to get fixed. It's like things that I know how to do, and I know I'm capable of doing, and is not very hard for me, especially like going out with friends where like I enjoy their company and I want to see them and I want to talk to them. Moments like, it could be like 4 hours before, and I'm like on edge, like like whatever reason, it's like I can't do this. I can't go out and do this right now. I'm just not in the right mindset. And it's almost like, I talk myself out of it most days. Thankfully, I, push myself to do it, but it's almost like I completely talk myself down. Like, they don't want to see you, they don't want to hang out with you right now. Even if they invited me out, it's almost like it's crippling. It's like my mind is telling me no. But like, obviously there's a portion of my mind that's saying, yeah, go out, have fun, do what you need to do, get some stuff done, go grocery shopping, go fill up your tank, get your oil changed, whatever it is. It's like, I know I need to do all these things, yet my mind is saying, nah, not right now, homie. It's like, I don't know what it is. It's like I'm scared to commit to it, even though it's something that I either enjoy, I want to do, or I need to do. Like, there's no choice. Like, I need to have it done. And it could be, like I said, as simple as just going out and hanging with friends. And I think a lot of people who deal with something, anxiety, tend to have a similar view. Like, even something they enjoy, like I said, hanging out with friends, is hard for them because they'll either talk themselves out of it. And in my case, I talk myself out of it. I get all worked up, like it's gonna, end so badly. It's not gonna be like great. I keep telling myself like, oh, this is gonna be like, it's just gonna be terrible for me because, well, maybe I'm not as comfortable with these people yet, so on and so forth. But in reality, it's That's like, true. Right? Yeah, in reality, it's like I know I'm gonna have a good time. They're my friends. Like they want to hang out with me. I gotta go grocery shopping because I need food. I gotta get my oil changed. It's like all these things need to happen, and all these things I would like to happen. I want to hang out. I want to do my music, so on and so forth. But it's like my anxiety is just stuffing it down and saying no.
It's interesting, though. I mean, because I know, obviously not to downplay anxiety by any means, but everyone has obviously experienced different types of anxiety and what triggers them, etc. But it really is a mental health issue. And that's, people can be diagnosed with anxiety. I certainly wasn't. It's not like I went to a doctor and, asked about it and tried to have them run tests or anything. I don't know if you have. And that's the thing, too. I'm also not looking to get diagnosed, and I'm also not looking for medication, to help adjust with it. But I know people that do and that have. And that alone, being able to get to that point is a huge pursuit. Because even getting to that point of admitting to yourself that you wanted to get medication or get diagnosed was, I'm sure, a huge possibility of finding anxiety in that moment. Just telling yourself, "Oh, I suffer from this. Now I should go get treated, or maybe find a way to help deal with it." I'm sure that entire process was just riddled with anxiety. I know for me that would probably, cause me to flare up in some way. And I know with other people that would probably cripple them to the point where it would take months, for them to work up some type of, I guess in this case, we'll just use the word courage, to be able to go and do that. So, of course, again, I'm not trying to downplay it by any means, and everyone suffers from anxiety, and if they don't, I'm sure they've gone through some type of nervous reaction, or even going into anything with just some type of doubt, and that looks a lot different for a lot of different people. So, I don't know. In your case, it's I have to imagine it's tough being able to go day to day and run into situations where you have anxiety pop-ups and stuff like that. Um, and of course, I can't just sit here and, try to tell you or other people, yeah, it's all mindset. You got to go into a situation, completely expectationless and yada, 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 because it's going to be different for everybody. It's not a clear-cut solution. That's for sure. So I feel like someone being able to identify that they have anxiety, or just even if it's not identifying it yourself, just saying, hey, like, I'm not comfortable in this situation, that, and the other, and maybe this is what I could do to, help me work through it and get to a better level of, situation. Like in your case, it sounds like, you've been able to get over a lot of hurdles in being able to hang out with certain people or make new friends. And then also in work scenarios, I mean, look how far you've come in being able to switch up position to position or even go to new places, specifically in this case now, that you're running into working in Massachusetts. So I feel like for other people, I feel like they can dig themselves holes, when they try to convince themselves that they can't do something, or can't see someone, when in reality they are very capable people and they are very confident people when they can actually commit to something like that. So anxiety sucks. It's probably, one of the worst things that you can be riddled with as far as like stuff moving around in your head and thinking thoughts and all that. But being able to overcome it is one of those things where it's going to be just as hard. Anxiety is scary and it's tough on people, and being able to get past it is scary and tough. So I think there's no reason to downplay anxiety for what it is. And obviously, even just between our conversation, we experience it in two very, very different ways. And so I have to imagine that nobody's going to have a clear-cut path to being able to overcome something like that. And I think that's the cool part about being able to talk about something like this, is because not everyone's comfortable being able to talk about anxiety and what they've gone through, and then also being able to relive, certain stuff. Like, I'm in a place now where I can think back on what I went through as far as like anxiety attacks, or moments, where I was unsure about certain things, and it doesn't bother me now. I could talk about it out loud, and I'm happy to say, this, that, and the other, and it doesn't, cause a flare up on me. It also doesn't, make me feel like I'm unsafe or that I need to go to the hospital or something like that. And I can't say exactly what I did to be able to get to this point, but it takes a lot of work, and I feel like it takes a lot of self-confidence to be able to tell yourself, that things will be okay, and that even if things aren't okay, you being able to take a step forward and get up out of bed every day and put on, your happy face, or in other cases, put on that hat, for your gig or for your kids or for a school teacher, or taking out the trash, whatever it is. Those things all take certain types of power and confidence and ability. And the hardest part about it is being able to wake up and do it every day, over and over again, because that the next day that you wake up, it's just new bullshit, that you're going to have to battle in fewer or less words. So I don't know.
Right.
It's a tough thing to just sit here and, tell people to do this, do that. Like, I'm not here to give advice, but I'd rather, people hear what we have to say and, live vicariously through us. And it's like, oh my God, that's happened to me. Or, even if it hasn't, something similar, something close, something very close, to the point where people can be, oh, okay, so there are other people suffering from this. Or something like, oh, okay, so he's in the same boat. I've experienced something similar, maybe not the same, but etc. So I feel like making it a safety net where people can hear about it and talk about it and understand where other people are at will hopefully give other people a chance, at looking forward to the positives. And of course, I hate to loop back into our optimism and our focus talks, but it's true. Being able to maintain that positivity is something that is going to be the one thing that will help you trek on, even if you can't beat anxiety and you don't want to take, for example, if people don't want to take medication, or maybe they're not diagnosed, but they think they have anxiety, but they still experience bad things, bad feelings, bad headspaces. You still have to find those ways to trek on, and that is forever a battle, that I don't think anyone will be able to just get through in one day, 1 week, 1 month. It's the continual every day of your life that you're going to be having to battle on. And, I don't know. Maybe for you, whatever that looks like, I'm sure you've given yourself prompts or things in your head that you say to battle on, but again, every day is different, and some days I'm sure you battle on like a champion. Other days you have to succumb, to your anxious thoughts. But I don't know. I would love to hear where you're at. What you think about all of it.
Yeah, no, I mean, I have ways to combat it, but they don't necessarily always work.
Right.
And, it's like, I hope there's no misunderstanding. Like, I love all my friends to death, and, obviously I have very close friends that, I always want to see. I don't, it won't bother me. I won't be anxious. I know what to expect. It's like, I love being around them, so it's like, that's of
Right.
no issue to me. Just to clarify that a little bit more. And Zach just left. He's gone forever. Oh, he's back, all right.
Sorry.
No, you're all right. But yeah, no, it's like very close friends. I have no issue most times with my anxiety. I think it's just kind of, new territory for me with making new friends. I always get a little bit anxious, and it's, and then even some moments I turn things around for myself, and I get all caught up in my head. My overthinking probably doesn't help at all. That kind of just feeds in. Yeah, that feeds right into my anxiety. My anxiety loves that. But I'm not someone who necessarily wants to take, any medication to like either assist this.
Sure.
I'd rather let my mind figure out a way to combat it, but that's only because my anxiety isn't crippling, and I know to some it might be extremely crippling, and I think in some ways it could be even worse than crippling. So for those that do, I wouldn't wish that upon anyone. But in certain cases and points, like Zach said, I'm not here to give advice on how to go about it. I'll just give you my uses that I do to help me get through certain anxious thoughts and such. Some, of course, I still have yet to truly combat. I usually just tell myself, I tell myself no one's going to judge you. Do what you need to do and go about whatever you need to do and have it the way that you want it. There's, no one can really change that unless, of course, you're doing something crazy. It's just like, do what you need to do, essentially. You want to go out and skateboard, go do it. You want to go play your drum kit, go do it. You want to go, and even some of the simplest cases, like you want to go cook dinner, do it. Like, who cares? Being that I live with roommates and such, for whatever reason, like, it's like in my mind, it's telling me, like, nah. They're not, they're going to look at your food and vomit. But in reality, it's not. Like, none of that really happens. And it's just my mind essentially telling me, or kind of just like pushing me away from the thought, because either it's too much on my conscious about it all, so my anxiety comes in and just pushes it to the side. Push it to the side.
Yeah. But seriously though, I feel like anxiety happens because of a lack of a lot of things, and one of those things is self-confidence. Another one is a lack of man, I had it and I totally lost it. I mean, the big one is self-confidence for sure. Because like you said, if you let those thoughts sneak in, and then you convince yourself that you're like, nah, it really happens, because that
Right.
that thought only enters, because you didn't have the overlying thought that said you could do it, or that you should, or that it's okay if you do. And I feel like with those thoughts that enter your head and say otherwise, you leave yourself just not vulnerable. You leave yourself, I guess, almost wondering what could have been. Because if like you're a perfect example of, okay, I'm gonna cook for me and the roomies, and then okay, here's anxiety walking its way in, and it says, oh, my roomies aren't gonna, they're not gonna like this food, or it's like, oh, every time I cook, somebody says something about it, or another instance, oh, if I cook, I think I'm gonna burn myself or something, something, some bad repercussion from taking care of that action, and all of those things, they don't have to coexist, some of them just one thought could literally lead you into not taking that step, but I think all of those possibilities of bad thoughts coming into your line of fire, so to say, leaves you questioning what could have been, and I think that just helps funnel more situations where anxiety will pop up.
Yeah. No, I mean, like, that's, looking back at everything I've done, that's definitely what could have been. Like, if I
Sure.
had just, ignored the anxiety and followed through with what I wanted to do. And I think that's kind of something that I push upon myself, or at least I can't help but push upon myself. But truthfully, you can't look back and say, like, oh, yeah, what could have been, because then you'll just be stuck in the past forever and you won't
You'll be
progress.
miserable.
Right. So, I don't know. I guess a way that I like to combat it, like I said, is just kind of commit to it. Like I always say, let me commit before I talk myself out of it. And most cases, it's like, okay, a task as simple as making dinner or going and getting something that I need. It's like, all right, let's just go get it. While we're up, while we're rearing to go, let's go do it before I sit down and just talk myself out of it completely.
Right.
Because of whatever reason it could be. It could be fear of judgment, fear of failure, fear of not being enough. Do you know what I mean? It's kind of just like I just need to not think about it and just do it. And once I kind of get comfortable with just doing it, then it's kind of like it's no issue to me. In most cases. Because once I finally feel like completely comfortable in what I'm doing, then there's no fear of judgment or failure, because it's like I know the outcome. I've done it like 80 times now. I think I'm confident enough in my ability of doing whatever thing it is that I'll be fine with it. But then I come back and it's just simple, like I said in the example I use again, it's I'm anxious about everything else in the smallest of ways. Like I gotta walk out of my room right now, and what if there's someone in the hallway staring at me? It's like it's stupid things like that like my mind pushes to, and it's probably the most annoying thing that I've ever dealt with, and I hate it in every possible way, because now it's kind of like keeping me back from things I like to do, such as hanging with new friends, and I want to get to know them, and I want to do all
Sure.
these things with them, but it's like it's always in the back of my mind. Thankfully, I've pushed that down, and I've really am proud of myself for pushing and going out and talking to these people and becoming closer with them and such, because I would have missed out on some really cool people, truthfully.
Oh, sure. Absolutely.
So with that, just if you want to try, I would say, just if you're in a good mindset, tell yourself you need to do it, and don't give like a second guess to it. Just say, let's go do it. And that might not be a great way for some. If you don't like that one, I got another one where it's like don't put a deadline on, because that makes me like even more anxious. It's like, oh crap, now I got to get this done before this time, blah blah blah.
Right.
That's why like most people like freak out. Like after they get off work, they need to get, they have a deadline to get their whatever car in the shop, or mail out a letter or something like that. they freak out even more because, well, then they're thinking about, like, well, what if I don't get it there in time? What if I don't do this? What if I don't do that? What I like to do is tell, if you can't get to it today, try again tomorrow. It's just, if you got some spare time, and like let's say you got home early from work or something like that, or you get home at the same time every day. Get home, get comfortable, do what you need to do, take a shower, get everything situated. If you got time to do it, do it. If you have plenty of time in the night, confront it first before you start enjoying the time home. Because
Sure.
once you first get off work, sure, a shower, obviously might relax a lot of people, and it's like, all right, they're in home mode, they don't want to do anything else. I take a shower because I need to clean the dirt off, but once I'm showered, it's like, okay, now I can go do some stuff. I can practice my music, I can go grocery shopping or something, whatever it might be. But I immediately tackle it, and if I don't and I lay down in my bed, or I do anything else where I'm just kind of mindless, then I won't get anything done in some cases. In other cases, I know I have things planned, our podcast, or whatever else I'm doing in some stances, or going out with friends, I'll have plans for later, whatever. Point is just do it as soon as you can, because at that point your mind isn't getting the ability to tell you otherwise, or you won't gain that feeling of anxiousness where it just kind of builds up and you're like, I don't want to do it because I feel like I can't. But when you first get home, it's almost like to me, my mind is still kind of in work mode, so it's like, all right, let's keep going.
That's how it is. I feel like in your case, painting a lot of picture for situational circumstances where sometimes you can't control it, because you set a deadline for yourself, and then it's like, oh, well, okay, I definitely can't hit that. Or in another case, leaving work and you say you got to do something. Oh, well, maybe I could just. And I think it's when you let in all those outside factors, it becomes, a bigger issue than it really needs to be. And of course, again, not trying to downplay anyone's issues or what they deal with on a daily basis. But when, in that case, you have a person who is organized and has anxiety, I think those people are very good about keeping track of what's going on in their day-to-day. They write things down. They have to-do lists, stuff like that. But then it's when they get to that thing that they have to do, it becomes that problem. And, I'm sure it's different for each person who is an organized person. But for me, for example, back when I would set deadlines for myself, in my planner, and I would set up, okay, hey, I'm going to do this at this time, and I'm going to finish by then, and then by then I'm going to be starting this. And I would make myself anxious because I would worry that I wouldn't be able to give that first thing enough time, finish it, and then do it in enough time to be ready for that second thing that I had planned. And I would drive myself nuts. I would think that I could do something in this, X amount of time, and then be able to follow up with something else that I wanted to do on that same day after I did that first thing. So it was layering for me that just erupted into, well, we'll just say chaos. And of course it was never chaos. These things I left for myself were things that weren't super important. If I scheduled it on Tuesday, I could do it next Thursday or something like that. But it was things that I was trying to keep as goals for myself, where it was like, okay, if I am ahead of the game and I can get this stuff done, then when I get that done, I can do X, Y, and Z. And those things can then, simultaneously follow into other things. So looping onto myself just put me in a bad space. And for other people who are organized, I'm sure you kind of get where I'm going with this. But eventually it got to the point where if something is a hard deadline for me, something like a letter needs to go out at a certain time, or I need to meet up with somebody on Zoom at a certain time, or another good example is sending out an application, for a job by a certain deadline or something like that. Those things are all hard stops for me. I'll usually write in 6 different little things in my planner well before that deadline is approaching, so that way I'm constantly seeing it and thinking about it, and then preparing myself for when that time comes that I actually need to commit to the action. Because then at that point I can say, oh, okay, here's the day, Now I just got to do this, this, and this, and then it'll be squared away. And then once I get, that mission accomplished, it's just like, oh man, and it feels like 80,000 pounds have dropped off my shoulders. And I know for people that suffer from anxiety, they have a hard time motivating themselves to get to that point and finding that common ground for themselves. And I've fell victim to it plenty of times. But finding out what works for you is the task. You being able to get to that point, it's going to be hard. It's going to be difficult. You need to find out where your quirks are and where you are doing your best and where you're doing your worst. And if you can find that middle ground and help yourself basically assess what works for you, then you're going to be way well off than someone who continually tries to motivate themselves to do things and then fails every time, because they fall just short. Their mind tells them they can't. They are insecure with how they feel about themselves, whatever it might be. It's just battling with your own mind. If you're losing like 90% of the time, chances are, if you're hoping that next time is going to be the time you win, it's not going to be. And that is something that you need to drill into your head, where if it's not working now and you're convincing yourself it'll work the next time, it's not going to work. It's not possible. You have to be able to adjust and switch and make that little bit of change necessary to be able to get to that point. Because like you were saying with getting up to that moment where you're just like, go and do it, take care of it, just get it out of the way. That's how it should be, because now you're tricking your mind. You're just like, all right, I got it done. So now there's nothing to be anxious about. You don't have anything to react to. You already got what you needed to done. So now it's just kind of like, oh, well, I'm a beast. I did it. Like, look at me go. And you getting to that point of being able to continually do that have shown yourself that you are capable. And I think that's where people who get super anxious or fall into the point where they need to start taking medication or see, therapists or psychiatrists or whatever, they, have fumbled into that realm where they haven't found their little thing that clicks into place for them. And that's tough, and they may never find it. Of course, that's awful to say. And it's different for everyone. Again, not trying to downplay anxiety. Thanks for coming. But it's just one of those things where if you can find those little loopholes in your mind space and be able to adjust for it, you're going to be much better off, because you're already leagues ahead of your mind, I guess, in that sense. And your way is helpful. Of course, sometimes it doesn't work, and that's just how it's going to be. You'll fail at times and things will pop up.
Yeah.
Other outside factors come into play, but that's life. And being able to combat it is just what I was saying before. You have to battle on, trek on.
I mean, the thing is, it's like, I know I'm capable of doing all of these tasks. I'm more than capable.
100%.
I have an understanding of what needs to be done in most of these scenarios. And it's like, obviously, if it's a new scenario, it's more or less just nervousness. And, that feeds into anxiety, but it's definitely more nervousness than anxiousness, I would say.
Gotcha.
But in most scenarios, or I guess, in pretty much all of the scenarios that I feel anxious about, I'm more than capable of doing every single one of them. And I know it, which is even more frustrating to the fact. So, truthfully, it might not be necessarily not feeling capable, but telling yourself you're not capable when you know you are. Like, your mind is telling you you're not capable when you know full well that you've either done it before, there's nothing that I need to be anxious about or need to be nervous about in this case.
Sure.
But your mind is still saying, like, nah, dog, try again. Not today. So, a lot of these things I like to, and I don't do it as much. And, that's the other thing I wanted to say before I get to that, put that on hold, is the, like scheduling everything or writing things down or keeping a to-do list or anything like that. I've tried it all. And truthfully, in some cases it works. Like, I write like a list of like things I got to get done this week. All right. Like I'll work through them, do what I can. And, by the end of the week, if I got, a list, say it's a list of 5, if I got like 3 or 4 done, like I'm happy. As long as like that, because more than likely I'm going to put the important ones and I'm going to get those done. Say like I have to pay taxes, or like, I have to get, I don't know, I have to get my oil changed because I need to get my oil changed, truthfully. Things like that I'll put at the top of the list, and like there's going to be like some that are like optional. It's like, okay, let's try and do this week. Like that could just be, cleaning my room. Like, okay, I just didn't have the time to, or I truthfully was tired, like every day I got home from work. Like we can just save that for the weekend and we'll put it off until then when we got some time to like work with. And there's no worry. In scenarios like that. But like when it's like I'm working on like things like myself and I write a to-do list, like, let's try to wake up earlier. Never works. Because like I'll keep telling, I'll keep telling myself, like, yeah, let's get to bed a little earlier. I can go to bed as early as I want, and the time comes to wake up, I still don't want to do it. I'll keep hitting snooze. So it's just like things like that where I'm working on myself mainly, or it's like I want to improve something, or I want to like read more, I want to write more.
Oh yeah.
Little things like that I'll like write down on a list, or like I'll write it down where I was getting to in my notebook, things I'd like to work on. And I think I've told myself more so that it's kind of just like I got to work on it as I go. It's not like I can sit down and do a lot of these things that I'd like to change. In some scenarios, it's like writing and reading. It's like I just got to give myself the time, or allow myself the time would be a better way. But it's just interesting. It's frustrating, really. It's all frustrating. But
Oh, absolutely. Well, I feel like that's anxiety in a nutshell. You getting to a point, and not you, like I'm saying people in general. Like you get to a point that you work yourself into this specific shell of how you act, and that's just how it goes. You can't really break out of it. You've set yourself up in a certain way where when things come your way, whether it's a type of person, a type of situation, a type of action you're trying to do, these things come your way, and it's just you've reacted this way in the past, so I'm going to continue to react this way. And changing away from that is obviously one of the toughest things ever. And that is not just speaking on anxiety, that's speaking for a whole lot of different things. But I
Right.
think that's where battling your mind is the tough part. Because as soon as you were talking about your example of planning on waking up at a certain time, planning it and saying yourself and setting it up in your head is one thing. And then being able to actually do it in that moment that it comes is the toughest thing. And of course, I'll dial back a couple episodes here about being disciplined and following through with stuff like that. If you are a person who suffers from anxiety and you have, like Ian was saying, perfect example, a list of things you want to get done for the week, and you get those things done, it doesn't, of course, have to be the full list. But if it is, even more brownie points. You get to that point where if you get to cross off that last thing on your list, you are absolutely blessing your dopamine receptors, and you feel like you are the king of a mountain. And for me, at least that's how I feel. I know when I have like to-do lists and I get them done in the week, and I think, I made good headway for that week, I am just like, let's go. Like, I'm hype. I actually got all that done. I never would have thought I could have done that. And it's just like,
Yeah.
I am good at building myself up in that sense because I like to beat myself up otherwise. If I'm not doing something and I'm missing out on deadlines that I've made, for myself, then it's just like, come on, you worthless piece of, it's just like, what the hell is wrong with you? And of course, please don't go and beat yourself up for, not doing things on your own accord. This is just, my own internal battles. Because then when I flip it and I go the other way and I get everything done that I had planned to, things work out, and I was able to achieve, certain progress that I wanted to hit. Once those benchmarks are hit and those milestones are reached, for me, it's just major success, because now, okay, I got this, and this done. Now I can do this, and this. And that means after that, I can do that, and that. And it just makes me feel so much further along. Because for me, when I'm doing things, it's never against anybody. I'm not trying to compete with other people. It's me against myself. And that's for anything I do. So if I'm if I'm ahead of where I was last week, and and the things I'm trying to take care of, I'm talking, then I'm already leagues ahead, of where I thought I would be. And in that case of what I'm saying against the battle against your own mind, it really is, because that's all you're ever doing is just thinking, oh, well, if I just did that way, or oh, you know what, I don't know why I didn't do that then. I could have done it, now, or however it paces out. Whenever
Yeah.
you're sitting in that situation thinking about what could have been, or why didn't I do it that way, you're feeding into your negativity, and you're just giving anxiety another chance to sneak up on you. So I think in this circumstance, for the people who are organized and keep lists and planners and stuff like that, just, if you can help it, be a little bit better about how you're writing things down. For me, of course, it was a shift of how much I'm writing, in quantity, but it was also what I was writing. For me, it was a matter of just adjusting. Like, I was more specific on what I wanted to achieve. I was more thought out for how much time I gave certain tasks, so that way I wouldn't burn out, or I wouldn't be failing at something so quickly because I gave myself the proper time. I'm still learning, I'm still adjusting. But for me, those were the things I had to do to be able to give myself a fighting chance. Because if I didn't, I would still sit to this day riddled with these weird waves of anxiety, not know how to explain it, and then also trying to justify it and make it normal space for me. So
Yeah.
that's where I've been at.
I've kind of just been, the way I've been tackling mine is just diving into things. And I think,
Yeah.
you mentioned it before, where it's like, well, now you're out in Massachusetts on an island in the middle of the sea,
Yeah, man. Yeah.
I think that's how I deal with it best, is just throwing myself into the situation, or some might say throwing yourself to the wolves. I think it's truly the best way I learn, as well as get comfortable in scenarios that I'm uncomfortable in. And sure, like, this entire situation for myself, and I'm sorry to always, like, constantly go over it, but it's truly like a moment in my life. A complete change from anything that I've ever experienced. I think it's also important to note that, someone like me who deals with as much anxiety as I do, and now here I am in a completely new area, surrounded by people I didn't even know before I got here, realizing that I'm in the best possible situation, and I chose essentially correctly on where I needed to go. It's truly only ever worked out in my favor every single time. Every time I think about it, it's like, yeah, like, and it took me a little bit to truly feel comfortable here, but once I finally did, and I'm still definitely working on it. That's of no question. It's still something I work on daily, but I'm feeling more and more comfortable here every day, just because I took that step and said, let's do it. And
Absolutely,
I think
man.
that, yeah, like I said before, I think it's the hardest, excuse me, it's the hardest thing to do, is just telling yourself to do it. But once you finally do it, you realize that it's probably the best choice you'll ever make. And now, it's not every case and scenario, of course. Like, you could be, you could, as a joke, you could be like, you know what, I'm just going to do some cocaine right now. And obviously that's not the best of choices, but you committed to it. So there's that.
You did it. We're so proud.
Yeah.
But you put it best. Being able to do something and then get something out of it is how everything will
Yeah.
ever be. Every action has a reaction. So you making that choice to make that happen led you to where you are now, which is
Yeah.
everything. Literally everything. So anyone who says they put something into something and then they get something out, it's only ever a reaction to what you initially did. It's never luck.
Yeah.
It's never karma. It's never good fortune, which of course I will continually say that I've been blessed with luck or good fortune if something good happens to me, whatever. That's besides the point. But in reality, the choices you make lead to results in the future. And the future could be a day from now, the future could be 70 years from now, the future could be 4 months from now. It doesn't matter. Those choices you make ultimately have consequences, good or bad. That's just how it is, how it always will be. So in your case, you making that leap was perfect in battling your anxiety, but everything that came after that that was good was because you made the right choices. Or at least in this case,
absolutely.
we'll put it in quotes, the right choices for you.
Yeah, it's all about taking that leap of faith. And of course, to anyone, taking that leap is going to be scary. But I think to those that deal with anxiety, taking that leap could start as small as just getting out of bed, as small as going grocery shopping, as small as talking to a new person, whatever it might be. Taking that leap is the first step towards taking a bigger leap. And I think, you said you were incredibly lucky. I was incredibly lucky to be where I am now, be around the people that are here with me, and in every way possible, I'm extremely lucky. Just because I told myself, yeah, let's do it. Like, don't even think about it, just do it. Like, it's, at the time it was more so like, well, I need it. I need a good job. I need something right now. I need something to change. I need a drastic change for myself. And, of course, like, I was riddled with anxiety at the time. Like, what if they don't contact me? What if, what if they hate my resume? What if they, all these thoughts, overthinking always, when in reality it took like a couple of days and they were messaging me back and they were more than happy to have me. So, as an example, please, take that leap of faith when you feel comfortable and ready, but also when you don't feel comfortable and you're not ready, because, well, you can't always bank on always feeling comfortable. There needs to be some uncomfortable to be overall comfortable. I don't know if that makes any sense, but you need to be uncomfortable to get to somewhere comfortable. Let's say it like that.
Oh, it does. It makes sense. You're right on the money.
So take that from someone who deals with it daily and on the most minute scale. Maybe not most minute, but so to all of those who do deal with it, and the many different ways that it can affect you, I wish you the best of luck in your journey on tackling it and hopefully one day beating it. But I fear that there's not going to be a day that I don't deal with anxiety. I think it's always going to kind of be around. I think I'm just going to learn to handle it better. And I think if we can all learn to handle it better, we'll feel much better. So, hopefully, and I hope every single one of you that have listened or will listen, take that and hopefully figure out some ways to divert your anxieties. Challenge them yourself rather than, resorting to medication, because it really, in some ways, it's not great for your head. But that's my opinion. If you feel as though it helps, great. To each their own. You battle it how you need to battle it, and if you can get by, that's great. Do what you need to do. Got any last remarks?
All I was going to say is stay confident, love yourself, make sure to always put your best foot forward, basically be positive, be the best person you could be. And then, of course, don't be afraid to be persistent. Sometimes you just have to trek on, and good things will come your way. Even if they look bad, every bad day has a good day. And even if today was that bad day, then look forward to that next good day, because it will come, regardless of what happens. Keep your head on, and just keep pushing. That's all you could do.
So thank you guys so much for tuning in today. We hope you enjoyed our talk about anxiety. I know it was probably a lot, but we hope you listened through the entire thing. This is kind of going to be our schedule. We're going to do kind of hour-long episodes now, once a week. It balances with our schedules a little bit easier. We're both kind of dealing with certain things on our sides. I get home late. Zach's doing other things and being the man he is. But I think it'll work out for us better. So hopefully you guys enjoy a longer episode, and let us know what you think about it. We'd love to hear any thoughts, comments, concerns, possibilities, whatever you guys think. Let us know what you think. And that's about it. That's what we'll end it. I don't know what Zach's doing, but he's doing something funky.
Doing a little bit of this, a little bit of that. Thanks for coming.
A little bit of
Breakfast
whoop.
Brothers.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for tuning in. As always, check us out on YouTube. You know, leave a comment, subscribe, whatever you want to do. You can just look at our page and yell if you want. Check us out on Spotify. Oh, yo. Oh.
Seen that?
Check us out on Spotify. Give us a follow over there, or if you want to, look at our page and scream. I don't know. And yeah, again, thank you guys so much for tuning in. Love y'all, and we'll catch you guys on the flippy flop. Peace. Peace.